Hello and welcome to Kedrick Farms. We're back with another episode of the Westby Wisconsin Revised map, and today we're in spring. Last time we sold a bunch of our corn. In fact, we sold all of our corn. And today we have to try and get started on some of our spring field work. We lined our fields last fall. And today what I want to do is put down some of this dry fertilizer that we purchased and then work it into the ground and get everything set up for planting, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And so I think what we're going to do is, if I remember correctly from last time, I wanted to run these fields with GPS on with this fertilizer spreader and not try to do them separately, but just run over them all at once. And so I think what we're going to do is just sneak down here and start on the bottom end of this field. And kind of like last time, I think we're going to end up going in a more east-west type direction. I'm not quite decided yet. So what I'm going to do is we're going to go ahead and, turn GPS on. And I'm actually going to turn the lines on. I'm going to turn on the width, get rid of my offset. And we're going to follow this fence line, whatever angle that ends up being. And that's going to be the angle that we use for the rest of the field here. And so we're just going to drop an AB line in here. And do that. That looks like it's more or less following the line of the field here. And we're going to try and handle this like I think I would do a normal field, which is come back and hit these headlands at the very end. Because that way you're not picking up a bunch of fertilizer on your tires every time you're turning around and flinging it around. I want it to kind of sit down into the soil here until we can come back and work it in with another machine. And so that's what we're going to try. We'll see how well it works. I'm kind of curious. I've never spread dry fertilizer like this in real life. Typically, when we were doing things on the farm, it was all liquid fertilizer. I know we talked about doing anhydrous on this potentially, but I can't actually afford the anhydrous gear, and this is the series that I'm trying to play on hard mode and not take out loans and stuff. So we have a dry fertilizer spreader, so that's what we're going to use here. But when I was farming, typically we'd do anhydrous in the fall, and then in the spring we'd put down some different chemicals. We'd probably spray like a pre-emerge, a herbicide, especially if we were planting beans. I think we'd typically spray some Roundup or something down ahead of the beans. And then that would take care of the weed control. And then when we're planting, we would put down some kind of a liquid fertilizer along with the seed, and possibly a dry fertilizer as well with the planter. I can't remember now. But then we'd come back and spray again for weeds and such like later on in the year. And so it's always struck me as kind of interesting that Farming Simulator does multiple stages of fertilizer, but only one round of weeds, where I feel like, at least where we were farming in Minnesota, we were putting Roundup down to spray for weeds ahead of the season, and then we were spraying for either weeds or pesticide later in the year as well. And so, it almost feels like you should have multiple stages of needing to worry about weeds and pests and less stages of fertilizer in Farm Sim, but that's not quite how it works out. And so I guess in my mind, I always just pretended that at least one of the times we're spraying in Farm Sim, it's for pesticide or something rather than actual fertilizer, so to speak. Still a yield affectant, but just different kinds of farming in different parts of the world, though, I guess. So I'm really curious to hear from people that apply dry fertilizer with a spreader, something like this, to understand how the right way to do it is, because I've never really seen it done in real life. And so I'm just kind of curious to know what time of year you do it. Do you always work it into the soil afterwards? Things like that. Do you do it in the fall? Do you do it in the spring? Those kinds of things. But that said, this is going to go fairly quickly, I feel. We're getting fertilizer spread. I guess I should always check the map. It's always questionable how good of a job you're doing and if it's actually working or not. This does appear to be working, though, so I'm excited about that. And then I do wish at some point I needed to figure out how to get a worker to help me out with tillage, but I don't think that's going to happen this time around. These fields are just not designed for normal workers, and course play I would have to have set up some field definitions for, so that did not happen. And it looks like we're overlapping a bit on our fertilizer. Let's check the width here. Yeah, that's what I thought. Whoa, where are you going? Okay, stop spreading. And let me GPS align. I've got all the keyboard shortcuts sort of memorized for keeping GPS in gear here. And then if we turn this back on, there we go. That's looking a little bit better. There's no need to overlap 2 feet of our sprayer every pass. We're trying to save money. And I don't know if that's just because I lined up poorly. Yeah, I think that's just a strip because I lined up poorly. We're going to live with it. No, we're not. We're gonna scoot over here. We'll live with the part that we've already missed. I think that's probably a little bit more reasonable. And this is one of the reasons why sometimes I do like playing with the lines in GPS. It makes it a little bit easier to visualize everything. But now that we're all set up, I suppose I can turn those off. I think somebody commented on one of my recent videos that, you know, realistically in real life, I'd have a monitor that has all of that information in it. And that is accurate, although I never actually had auto steer in any of the equipment that I drove. We did have GPS. I'm way off my track here. But the GPS was more for our, we tracked our planting and our yield monitors with it. And it, you know, let us see how well our fields were doing, but we didn't have anything that hooked up to an auto steer unit. So it was much more capturing data rather than helping you farm. But yeah, I think this fertilizer is going a lot farther than the lime did. So we're definitely putting it down at a lesser rate. So super kudos to whoever it was that shouted out that fertilizer rates are lower than lime rates, and I should not buy more containers to fill up this spreader. I'm super glad we were able to save that money. It's going to allow us to get our seed going here and also do our spraying this year. And I think, you know, and part of why I'm doing this is we're going to be able to hit 100% yield on these fields this year. I should be able to get the 3 stages of fertilizer done with this because we'll be able to afford both our seed and another round of spray as we get into the rest of spring here. So I am super excited about that. But with that, let's cut into a little bit of a time lapse and wrap up this fertilizing and see if we can hop into the digger and get some of the spring tillage done today as well. So we've done all of the long rows, and we've got quite a bit of, well, we just crashed into the fence. We've got quite a bit of fertilizer left here, which is good and bad. It means that we really overestimated how much we needed, and but it also means we're going to be able to go around and hit our headlands without being too worried about it. And so I'm going to get whipped back around. We've got the tiniest little strip over here that we missed. So I'm going to go ahead and hit that. And then we're going to just take this straight up the headland here and wrap ourselves around the field. I tried to do a decent job when we were doing the long rows of making sure we hit the headland over there by the barns, so that the only spot we should really have to hit is the long part along the road and the fence down there in the corner. So shouldn't have to do too much here. As we get around on the other side, I don't need to come all the way back down to this corner. So that was the thinking, at least when we were going through that. We're going to have a little spot like that we miss. I'm not going to monkey around with trying to get every tiniest little piece. The time spent versus the minute amount of additional yield we get is just not worth it. We are going to spin this way, though, because I got distracted and didn't think I could make that tighter turn without running into the fence. So yeah, this was a lot shorter of a job than I anticipated it being. So as soon as we get this back up to the farm, we're going to get our digger field cultivator out and turn the soil over and get it ready for spring planting. That's also going to have the added benefit of flipping our fertilizer state and allowing us to apply additional fertilizer while we're seeding. So that is the added bonus from a farm sim perspective. Plus, it's just, kind of realistic depending on what area of the country you're in, to do a little bit of light tillage to get the ground prepped, especially with the older equipment that I'm using. Obviously some of the new stuff you could no-till and probably put it straight into this bean stubble, but we need to prep the ground for our old equipment. Not so much set up for no-till at this point. Just got to take off this last headland here, and we're good to go. And that should wrap up this field. Oops, we're putting some fertilizer into the side of our shed. Let's think here. I think our tillage equipment is here. And I kind of want to put this fertilizer in here. Tell you what we're going to do. We're going to get the 4955 hooked up here. We're going to use that for tillage. And once I pull this out of here, we're going to back that lime spreader in, I think. Forgot to hook the hoses up. I feel like at one of these points we need to buy this field since we end up turning our equipment around in it so often. And I would empty this, but I don't feel like getting the forks on right now and dealing with that. So let's just back it into the shed here. And we'll deal with this a little bit later. So I think we're just gonna line it up here along the wall. And we'll leave this guy here. And we're gonna go ahead and take this guy out and start doing some tillage. I think I'm kind of tempted to do the same thing we just did. So we're gonna run down here and get all set up. So we're just gonna turn in here. We're gonna drop the tillage implement, and get going. And then I will pop on a GPS track here for us real quick. And then we'll have to pick up that little corner piece probably. I just want the GPS track to stay straight here. Here we go. Just pull this up around the corner here real quick. And then what we'll do, I'm pushing the wrong keys. Did not want to leave the teeth in the ground around that turn. What we're going to do here is remember to set our GPS track correctly. There we go. I've got the width set. It looks like it might have been just a little bit too wide. Try that. There we go. That seems a bit better. If we can get our hands on the right controls here, this should go a little bit better. And then I think this implement is wide enough that we're going to be able to turn right back into the next row. It's looking about right. Now I adjusted that previous track a few times to get us lined up correctly, so I think we're going to have a little tiny piece of skip dirt here. I'll back up. I don't need to back up. We'll take care of that when we get to doing the end rows. It looks like I'm going to have about 2 end rows that I need to do here. And so we'll definitely be hitting that at that point in time. And so we're going to just dive in and tackle some of this tillage. I don't think we're going to get all of this done today. We'll do a little bit here, but we might need to tackle some of the rest of this in the next episode, or maybe we'll do some of this off camera. I've been doing a little bit of off camera quote unquote work on the Discord server, and so we have a Ketterick Farms Discord server. The link is in the description below, and we have a lot of fun there. Pretty awesome community. We have about 500 people on the Discord server at this point. And so sometimes it's fun to just have a more casual chat while taking care of a few of these longer jobs. And so from time to time, I've been known to hop on the Discord server while I'm tackling tillage. I've done a little bit of the off-camera work on the Clark Farms map that way. And then I did a little bit of the yard cleanup on this map off-camera one time, and tackled that in a live stream as well. So if that's something you're interested in, feel free to come on over and check out the Discord server. Usually pretty active in there, chatting with people throughout the day. So having a blast there. And as always, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. Really helps the channel out. But with that, we're going to try and stop crashing into the fences and do a little bit of a time lapse and see how much of this tillage we can get done. So it looks like we're actually getting some rain now. And while Farm Sim probably won't prevent me from doing my tillage in the pouring rain, in reality, at a certain point, the ground starts to get a little bit sticky. We do have the wet ground symbol up, although I think that's probably been up since we started, if I'm being honest. But given that it is raining now, officially, I think we probably ought to take a pause from this and resume this once the rain blows over. I think we're actually going to leave this tractor parked down here. There's nobody else able to get down here, so it's close enough to our farm that I think this is a safe place to park things. And if we just take a quick look at the overall map here, we got a good chunk of our ground prep for planting. We just need to finish this out and then turn back around and hit our headlands, and we'll be all ready for planting. So we're actually in a really good spot. If we look at the weather real quick, our air temperature is pretty high today. Little bit cooler tomorrow. We're supposed to get more rain tomorrow and Sunday. And so it's looking like we're a couple of days away from planting, most likely, especially if we look at our planting calendar. We need the ground temperature to get up to around 50 degrees. And since it's going to be below 50 degrees as air temperature for the next several days, I really don't think until we get to Sunday, Monday, are we going to be ready to start hitting the planting pretty heavy. So that'll be in our 5-6 day of season. So we still have plenty of time to get our crops in. And so with that, I think this is a good spot to wrap up this episode. Thanks again for watching. That's all for today. Keterk out.